All right, here we go. This is take two. My phone storage is terrible. My very first solid state upload to YouTube, my Gottlieb's Genie from 1979. I have not fixed a solid state for myself in about a year since I fixed Funhouse. I've bought plenty since then, just as projects, but I've mainly been working on EMs for the past year. So I'll probably explain the story when I'm opening up the machine of how I got this, but for now I've got 8 credits on it. Got it set up to 3 coins per play. Let's play one of those credits and then check out the inside of the machine. Also turn off the light here so you don't get the glare in front of the flippers. There we are. Let's get it going. Love hitting A. Usually fires it back up through there. Good. One more white target. There we go, 3x multiplier. It's 45,000 bonus points. Got it! Extra ball lit, and white target's lit for 5,000 and 3 bonus advances. There's 1. There's 2. My extra ball lit down here. Kind of want to get it back up to that last one. Let's see if I can hit it. Oh, missed it, and I missed the bonus. I'd rather get my multiplier up before I hit another bonus score. Hit score bonus. Let's hit that extra ball. Come on. Oh, I just missed it. I got max bonus, except for 5x. I don't have 5x. We're safe. Ah. Screw my very closely adjusted slingshot. Oh, saved it. Came back. Oh. Very nice bonus. Free game for 260. On ball 1, that's not bad at all. Come on. Like nudging it into the bumpers. The better chance I can not have it go right down there, the better chance I have to not lose the ball. Come on. There we go. Oh, God damn it. Screw. 384,000. Not terrible. That was a great first ball, that's for sure. Let me get the lights on. Take a look inside. There we are. I also added the little disclaimer on the front there, because this is going to Vintage Oasis. So this is the worst vintage machine for where the start button is located. It's down here. So unfortunately, you can't just put the coins in and have the ball pop out. You actually have to hit this. So it's like, trying to make it as obvious as possible for people, but both coin slots work. Still at 8 credits. Still at 8 credits. Now we're at 9 credits. Get it opened. Let's get the glass out of here with the massive lockdown bar on this baby. Oh yeah. We get the tripod over here for the tripod reveal in a second. Let's see. Oh shoot, I almost knocked it over. And this thing's huge. That's what the pinball said. Okay. So here it is. Show you what all the switches do and how everything works, what everything's supposed to be. Hit the start button here. Bank, bank, kicker, out hole, ball fires. Now, A, B, and C, and D are tied together. Doesn't matter if you hit the lowest one or the upper one. They all score 5,000 when they're lit and add bonus. Otherwise, they just score 500 and they're always add bonus. If you knock out all 4 of them, you get extra, excuse me, you get extra ball lit at the top here. The other thing, bottom pop is 2,000. The top pops are 2,000 as well, but only on 3-ball play. Otherwise, the top pops are 200 if your game is on 5-ball. I believe that's the only change between a 3 and 5-ball game that the actual software does. Otherwise, you've got your top targets up here if you knock down any of all of a kind. So if you knock down all 4 reds, you get the white targets lit for 5,000 and add 3 bonus, and you get the special lit down here for 500 add bonus and a free game. It's a good deal. Otherwise, these targets are always 2,000 and add bonus. You knock all the whites down. You don't need to only hit the whites. It's just once you get all of one color, everything resets. Knock all the whites down, you get extra ball lit down here. You can only collect 1 extra ball per ball in play, just like you can only collect 1 special per ball in play. But once you collect the extra ball, especially off the top target, your ABCDs reset for more 5,000 points. Your lower targets are pretty much the most important here. They light off of every bumper hit or upper rollover hit. They alternate on and off. When they're on, hitting any one of them advances a bonus multiplier. Just 1 bumper hit's all it takes to light any of them, and then it's worth 3x, 4x, all the way to 29,000 bonus points and 5x multiplier. So I'm at 25,000 right now. Fastest way to get bonus points is actually hitting those white targets when they're lit. They add 3 bonus advances. There, I'm at my max bonus. Once you have at least 20,000, once you have this light lit, your upper hole lights for scores bonus. This is always lit. I mean, it always gives you 10,000 points no matter what. But once you've got over 20,000, regardless of your bonus multiplier, you're going to score your bonus once you get in that hole. Got a free game for 260 again. There's a lane back to the shooter there. Doesn't really do much except for give you another shot up through A, B, C, D. Got a 1-way gate up there to shoot up through there. Very rarely that happens. It's always kind of cool when it happens though. Give me the ball back. Your inner stars light your spin target for a bunch of bonus advances. The only issue is sometimes you hit the spin target and then you immediately hit the bumper behind it. And that cuts it off early because the second you hit any other switch on the field when you've got the spin target lit, spin target turns off. So you have to hit it right after you get one of the inner rollovers. Otherwise, got a couple 10-point contacts on the field. The one that's the scoring switch underneath the slingshot. This empty rubber, this is not a slingshot. This is just rubber. Back here, back here, back here, and I believe down here. Those are all your 10-point contacts. It is kind of cute how once your 10-point contact rolls over into the hundreds, it makes a cute little beep. So if you rarely hear that wee, that's actually what that is. So otherwise, 3,000 rollover, 3,000 rollover. Pretty much everything else is 500 and add bonus if it's not necessarily marked. But you go down the side, you get 10,000 points. Lose your ball, you get your bonus automatically. I still have my extra ball, so I still got shoot again. Just past 3,900. Heck yeah. You will immediately lose your game if you slam tilt or if you ball roll tilt. Otherwise, just the standard tilt. You can hit stuff. That's not going to even advance it because I didn't even hit something for shoot again. So, yeah, if you ball roll tilt or slam tilt, here, I'll roll the ball here. Immediate game over. And you can still match, actually. It still throws up a match number, and you can still match after you slam tilt, which is kind of funny. Otherwise, just flashes your high game to date when you're right there, 732,970. Flashes it, and you get a reward of 3 replays for beating the high score to date. There's also an alternate setting on the scorecard where it's the exact same thing, but without the 3 replays, because that's the dip switch setting on the board to turn off the 3 replay for beating the high score feature. I don't know exactly what dip switch setting it is. I do not have the manual. I do not have the schematics for this game, but I can show you exactly what my dip switches are set at, so you can have the exact same settings I have. It is literally just 3-ball play, 75 cents, and, match number, show credits, show high game today, stuff like that. First off, I think I should take you through the test mode first, because this actually does have a test mode, even though it's very, very rudimentary. So this upper switch, game over, or even just the game on, you can even do it in the middle of the game. Hit the switch once. I missed the switch. All right, there we are. So comes up with whatever 1473 is. Maybe that's total games played. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I think that's the default high game to date, maybe. I'm not sure what that is. Never mind. Okay, so all I know when it comes to the test mode is here's your first replay value, adjustment number 7. You can set this by hitting the credit button in the front, and you can only go up by 10,000s, and it goes really, really, really slow. So if you roll past it, you got to go all the way around the horse past 1,000,000 and then come back. So 2,600, 3,900 is the next replay value. Adjustment 8, adjustment 9, 520,000. Adjustment 10, you saw it for just a second. That's the current high score to date. Now, in adjustment 11, it automatically goes into a display test for the first 2 displays. Player 1 and 3. And then you hit it once more. Goes into a display test for players 2 and 4. Hit it once more. It turns on all the CPU-controlled lamps for not that long. Yeah, and then it's off. And then it does all the knockers, all the coils. You'll notice it literally, I believe, just did the kick-out hole, the out hole, and the 2 drop target banks. That's because every other coil in this game is not computer-controlled. And if it sees no switches closed, by the time that test is done, in a couple of seconds, it goes back into attract mode, which is really only seen by the game over flashing, because there's no lights that flash on the field when you have original boards in here and not the Pascal boards. What else is there? That is a switch test at the end of that test. So if you get, of course that doesn't count the out hole because the out hole is not actually a switch in the switch matrix on this game. But if you wait through the rest of that coil test and you have a switch, yeah, here's your lamp test. It just turns them all on for a second. Yeah, knocker, out hole, some tones, kicker, and those two. This is not controlled. Here, let me drop a switch. Let's see if it sees it. Come on now. Yeah, 50. All right, that's my 10-point switch. If I hold this one, it'll see that. The switch test is terrible. 63. This is probably 50 again. Yep. Do the drop targets. Come on. Show me something else. 21. Yeah, 20. And then I was testing these upper targets because I had the weirdest problem, but it showed up correct. So like this target dropped and it was switch 31. This target dropped and it was switch 32 or 30 in the test, and that was correct. So I was confused as to what the problem was. Essentially, the issue I was having, I'll boot up a new game and I'll show you here. Let me turn it off and on again. You want to be very careful when you turn these off and on. If you immediately saw the coils lock on, turn it off really quick. That was happening because I had a weak connection on the power supply board. If you see all the coils turn on, do not leave this thing on. So the weirdest problem that this thing was having was when I was hitting the upper bank targets after I did all the stuff on the field. Here, I'll show you. Essentially, if I dropped the targets and I left this red one up, it would still reset all the targets despite the fact that this one had not been knocked down. So essentially I would knock down this one, and this one. And right now it would reset all the reset all the targets and think I got all the reds down, even though I didn't. But now it works properly. But it wouldn't do that with any other reds. You know, you could knock these three down and it would still wait for this one. You could knock these three down, it would still wait for this one. And you could knock these three down and it'd still wait for that one. But for some godforsaken reason, it did not like when this was the last one that was up. It came up properly in switch tests. I put a bunch of duct tape around it thinking maybe it was like shorting against the metal of the bracket or something. It wasn't any of that. What it ended up being, I've got my caveman way over there. It ended up being one of the germanium switch diodes. Two of them were actually bad on the exact same board. So let me lift the playfield up here for a second, and you'll be able to see what makes the System 1 tick. So these germanium diodes I was referring to are on the diode boards right near the top of the field. It was that one right there you can see the new solder on, and then that one over there you can see the new solder on. Both those diodes on that same board had shorted and failed. And since I believe they were on the same board, but they didn't have anything to do with that target. It was the diode for this drop target and the diode for the third red drop target. And I didn't know why the heck it would think that one was the remaining one up. But I was like, well, I suppose if those two are shorted on the same board, that means this switch would actually be tied to that switch. And maybe it got confused how many reds it was dropping. Maybe it would think that this one was dropped. It was just the weirdest thing. So, that was a headache. But yeah, you might also notice that I have a red flipper coil down here, which is not factory. The factory coil are these yellow Gottlieb A17875 coils. A lot of people seem to replace their flipper coils in this vintage with this Gottlieb A 295 coils. The difference is very minimal. The The strong ohms are 3 ohms and the weak ohms are 40. So 3 and 40 is the factory. The strong ohms on this one is 2 instead of 3, and the weak ohms is 35 instead of 40. So very, very close. I didn't want to leave that original, and I have the correct coil on order, but I was just so antsy to get this thing up and running that I just put that old coil back in there, as well as the fact that I ordered 2 coil stop brackets for this one and this one because they have completely blown out their coil stops. And you really can't even hardly tell because these flippers were just made so solid. Like, Gottlieb was cooking with this flipper design. I don't know why they don't still use this flipper design. I know why. It's because Stern wants to sell coil stops until the horses run home or whatever the hell it's called. But meow. Game over relay and tilt. You want to make sure those are all properly cleaned and burnished, just like any EM. They use those until the end of time. Had a little bit of a problem with that. Also, would like to mention I added a bulb up there underneath the top arch light. I don't know if you noticed. It's illuminated red up there. I initially had a yellow one up there, but considering I also have all of these as golden yellow, I wanted it to kind of stick out more. So I put it red under there. And I also illuminated this plastic right here with a flex bulb that's right about under here. One to shine at the top and one to shine up lower, because the only bulbs underneath this plastic are underneath the little red rollover guides there and there. And I wanted to actually have more of that lit up, so put a bulb up there, and I have those wires coming behind this 10-point switch and soldered up to the general illumination there. Just the same as that one over there. But yeah, there's what your fuses should be. Got them all correct except for the coil one. I think I blew my 1 and 5 amp slow blow when all those coils locked on that one time, so I think it's a 7 amp slow blow in there, but I have faith Genie will behave and not be a piece of crap. Got your primary fuse up there and primary fuse down there. A nice little soundboard piece of paper still taped in here. The top switch is for attract sounds. If you have them on in this position, that top switch needs to be flipped like that for it to be on. Then the attract sound will happen, and once every 6 minutes it'll be a cool little jingle. I like it. And then God forbid you flip the other switch down here, because that turns on sounds instead of tones. So with sounds on, you get this abomination of a freaking, game. Yeah, it literally just swaps everything in the whole game. It's so weird. Yeah, never set your Genie to that. It's stupid. Doink. Leave line cord plugged in. I don't think that does anything. Other than that, nothing too specific about this game. Other words of wisdom, do not gap your pop bumpers or your slingshots too close, because these are not computer controlled. If the switch gets stuck closed, they will lock the coil on and fry if your fuse doesn't blow. And, I mean, at least with them not being computer controlled, you don't really have to worry about it damaging computer components, hopefully. But just don't risk it. Replacing coils is not fun. I need to vacuum this thing out. I just forgot about that. Also, forgot to mention ground mods. Totally important for System 1. So, you got your ground mod for the soundboard. It goes to the 5 volt or whatever this is, the heat sink here. The ground side of this little doodad that's in here. Take that ground and you can put it right onto the ground strap there. You could even probably jump it into the ground that goes straight to the speaker if you don't want to have this wire hanging about. But yeah, that goes to the ground strap. And other than that, you can also, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I forgot. I don't believe so. Everything else is pretty standard to an EM. Nothing too specific. Got my key for the front door here. This also does the back door. So the game over light and the shoot again light are not computer controlled. I mean, they are and they aren't. They're, I believe, they're computer controlled, but they're meant to be 455 bulbs. So you do have to put a flasher in the game over and a flasher in the shoot again. The high game to date, the ball in play, and the number to match bulbs, however, and your tilt can all be solid on because they are not meant to, be blinkers. Maybe the tilt's meant to be a blinker. I don't believe so. Other than that, I've got my 455 flashers in the trail coming out of the lamp leading up to the main Genie. Got a couple red ones here. I ran out of red, so I used some purple passions from Comet Pinball. And I also use an ice blue to light up the logo itself. Red's going all the way up the wizard, except for oranges on the sides and his hands, and an orange to light up his little hat. A little cool white to light him up. It helps with the color on his beard. And then this is just a personal choice of mine to have a flex bulb be on the top and the bottom, because unfortunately the bulb being right here would light right up through all the flaking in her chest. So one bulb angled a little bit lower and one bulb angled right up into her face. That kind of helped with, having to see a light straight on. Other than that, the displays were all fine. This was originally the first player display, a little dimmer than the rest, but honestly can't tell too bad. So just took these displays out, burnished the male ends. I didn't have to replace any card edge connectors on this machine, even though I bought them to replace them. They had this wonderful battery in here. Someone previously burnished any battery corrosion that was here, wired in a battery, left it in a Ziploc baggie, Velcro strapped for easy access, and it is a Radio Shack rechargeable telephone battery, cat number 23-393 06A02. This thing works. I have not touched it. Whoever put this in here, and they don't even have to put a diode because this is meant to recharge. This is great. I might just do this like every time for a System 1. I love that it's on a little Velcro strap to prevent it from flying around. They did a really good job with it. But whoever added the battery did not add any ground mods to the game, so had to do the ground mods, of course, which means taking the end of this capacitor, putting it onto ground, taking the end of this capacitor, and putting it onto ground. That's the attract sound. And taking the end of this little diode thing, maybe it's a capacitor, I don't know what the hell this thing is, and putting that to ground as well. That also goes on this whole trace that has those little silver dots. So what I've also done is I've just burnished the trace over here next to those silver dots and jumped it from here over to this ground strap, which you're more than welcome to do. Got your driver board, paper right there, telling you that Genie is the prom marked L. There are all my dip switch settings for you to admire. Setting 1 through 4 to on, 5 to off, 6 to on, and 7 and 8 to off. That was mainly the coin setting, so that got me to 3 coins per play. I think 1 through 4 were off when I first got it, and that was 1 coin per play. And the rest of the banks are all on for me. 1 through 8 on the second bank and 1 through 8 on the third bank are all on. And oftentimes with those dip switch banks, you have to turn them off and on and off and on a couple times just to get them, making good contact again, because they probably have not been turned off and on in like decades. So maybe even from the factory. But yeah, it's crazy to have a System 1 game that has all original boards and have them all still working. besides this capacitor, I don't know if much has been replaced on this board. Someone added new male header pins and trifurcon pins onto this connector, which was very nice. But I noticed as I was wiggling this connector, the whole power would cut out, so I put the new pins in that one. And as I was wiggling this connector, the power would also go out, so I put new pins in that one. Unfortunately, my crimper didn't arrive, so these pins are actually soldered in, kind of. I soldered the wire onto the trifurcon pins, and then I put the pins in the housing, and then I plug the housing in. So you can unplug this, it's fine, but it's little scuffs. The other thing is, this still had a bad connection even after putting the trifurcon pins in. I had to break the case on this, which is super annoying. You have to take this screw out, or you have to take these 4 screws out to take the whole board off. You have to take this screw out the back end. You have to take this screw out the back end, this screw out the back end with the nut. And then you have to unscrew the big old right voltage regulator and then desolder the voltage regulator from the front. I found it was really easy to have a pair of pliers on the voltage regulator, giving it some weight to pull away from the board, some big heavy-duty vice grips, and then just putting the soldering iron here to let it fall out the back end. So there's also a weird little thing of insulation that makes sure that it does not touch the metal grounding plane, and you need to have that intact. Man, that does get hot. See why they screwed it onto there. What else? But yeah, after getting the board out just to reflow the solder on the male end, I can wait. Oh. Maybe I can't wiggle it too much, Maybe I can't wiggle it too much. Yeah, maybe I can't wiggle it too much. Who knows? Maybe it's this end. Yeah, maybe it's that end. Yeah, it might be that end. I suppose I'm not showing you anything right now. Well, it used to not always turn on. Yeah, it's definitely this end, isn't it? See, now I got stuff lit. Look at this. Look how confused it is. It doesn't know what to think. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it's time for a new board. Yeah, we're still alive. Everything's fine. This will never happen when it's on location, and no coils will ever lock on. And the game will always work because Gottlieb System 1s are super reliable. They're so reliable that there's not a person that makes an entire replacement board to replace all these pieces of shit with one singular board. And, you know, you can always just use these boards for forever. They'll never go bad, ever. I swear I refilled the back end of all of these. That's crazy. I had to unplug it for a second. I think I might have blown that. I think I might have blown all the coils. They all came on for a split second. I'm like, oh shoot, they're all on. I gotta unplug them. Do not mess with Gottlieb's when they're plugged in or turned on. They don't like it. Especially, I mean, you can wiggle the connector to make sure the connector's good, but don't leave it. Don't wiggle it too much. You'll blow things. Especially, do not unplug your displays when they're plugged in. Do not unplug your displays under any circumstance. Let me see if I blew my coil. Oh, coil fuse is good. Cool. Do not unplug your displays when you're plugged in. The most you're allowed to do, I would suggest maybe like wiggling it just ever so slightly. You know, making sure the numbers don't disappear or flicker in and out. But you really don't want to unplug those. You'll destroy the display. Only other thing is you can, you know, attach a lead to this end and attach a lead to that end, anode, cathode it, whatever, with the 9-volt battery or the coin relay, and zap all the oxidization are off, and then revitalize your displays. But there's all their YouTube videos telling you to do all that. I suppose the very, very last thing about my Genie that would be important to note is that when I first got the thing back together, the top glass looked like this. Like it was kind of sagging in front. And I tightened these nuts on this end here. I only had one nut left, so I tightened that really tight. And I moved one of them up to there. I tightened those really tight. But that didn't really seem to make much of a difference on where the whole thing sat. But what I was able to do was I was able to take this plate up here, and this didn't really make a difference either. This is just supposed to grab this little thing, and it doesn't grab that well anymore, and I can't just open the front without the other thing sliding out. But I was able to move this thing all the way down to where this end is now up a lot higher. So now, every time I close the back, that little bar actually hits the under end right here. So every time I close the back now, you'll see, here, watch. I have to like actually lift it up and then over, and then I'll give it a lock. And that up and over that hump actually helps align this display into that light box. Because it was sagging so much you could barely even make out the top segment for the digits. But just moving that let me kind of put the whole head up a little higher to where this display and this display were pretty much dead even again, like they were from the factory. So, yeah. Oh, what is it complaining about now? That was a weird thing. What the hell happened? Is it am I screwed up? Did I fuck up Genie? Nah, I think Genie lives. I think Genie's chilling. Like I said, Gottlieb System 1's super reliable. Never been, nobody's ever said anything bad about Gottlieb, ever. Especially on their electronic games, where you can totally still find their manuals on the online for free. And, you know, you don't have to pay a trademark holder because they weren't bought out by Columbia Pictures ever, or bought out by Coca-Cola and changed their name to Rat Slime. You know, none of that ever happened. Gottlieb's a great company, of course. Anyways, oh yeah, I never tripod revealed. There you are. There's a tripod. Phone was sitting right up here in the old box of dimes. Funnily enough, I also had the original coin box separator in case this ever took other change or Susan B. Anthony's. And I've got the 87 to 88 occupation tax sticker. It never been installed. Maybe it was like a second copy, but it was just sitting here in the box. A lot of bolts were stripped though. Somebody used a lot of T-nuts. Oh, I wish I could do that or show that off, but yeah, some goober put those blocks of wood, hammered T-nuts into them, and then put them on the back legs in front of the leg brackets. The leg brackets were still there, only one of which was even stripped on one bolt. The other leg bracket was totally fine. They just had the bolts going through that leg bracket and then the T-nuts hammered into a block of wood. So they stripped most of the bolts they had to use new bolts. Kind of stunk, but hey, this has been almost a 40-minute long video on Gottlieb's Genie, and I hope you enjoyed it.